More than 20 killed. A terrible powder explosion at King's Mills. The mills demolished, a freight train annihilated, and the village probably wiped away. That was the headline in the New York Times on July 16th, 1890. Hello, everyone. I'm Don Helbig alongside Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics. Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Ryan, this explosion in 1890 kind of led to some of the ghost stories that you hear since it was near Kings Island. So you hear about the little girl in the blue dress and some other sightings, and someone attributed to that explosion.
Yeah. So Missouri Jane is the name, allegedly the name of the girl in the blue dress. There is the Dogwood Cemetery, um, which is right by the parking tolls. Now it used to be kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but since they relocated the parking tolls, everybody drives by them. Where the grave of Miss Missouri Jane is, and she allegedly appears in a little blue dress around the Whitewater Canyon area. Now to clarify. I've heard a million times that she drowned in the lagoon for Whitewater Canyon. So that lagoon is man-made. That wasn't there. She died at the perfect age to die of cholera during a cholera outbreak. That's probably how she died. Um, so she wasn't associated with the explosion. The explosion was at the King's Powder Company.
Right.
The Peters Powder Company. Apparently, they're two different things operating out of the same place. But yeah. So several ghost stories at Kings Island. And we'll get into a lot of the stuff as far as the land is very historical. Especially with the fact that nearby they had the powder company, which supplied munitions for the Civil War. And it really kept on doing it up
Hmm.
through like World War II. So it's very incredible history behind that. And what's funny is that this is the second time that the cartridge factory has been talked about on this podcast. If you think about, well, amongst our economy of podcasts, because on the Attractions Group podcast, if you recall, Joe Rossi mentioned that the reason why his family came and settled here to start a firework company was because they had easy access to gunpowder because of the cartridge factory.
Yeah. Well, all these ghost stories led to me when I joined the Kings Island marketing team in 2007 as the running PR.
Hmm.
I started sending letters every year to the producers of Ghost Hunters to ask them to come out and check out these stories. There would be different reports, whether it was the girl in the little blue dress. There were things around Oktoberfest. Just different sightings and things. So I would write to them. No response. The next year, write to them, no response. Well, I sent 5 different letters, got nothing back. And then in late August of 2011, I get a phone call, and it is the producer from Ghost Hunters. And they said we'd like to come in and do an investigation right when I was ready to give up on sending letters. And we had to have the park cleared where they had no one else in the park but them. So it had to be at a time when the park was closed. So at the end of Halloween Haunt in 2011, the first week of November, we gave them their 4 nights, 5 days that they needed at the park to complete this investigation. And so TAPS, they headed to the park. It's the first amusement park that they did an episode on. And, they talked to a number of the different employees who had said they witnessed, some different paranormal activity. Some of them worked their overnight shift. Some of them just during the day, would see something happen, something odd, something go flying off their desk. And so they had a lot of those different types of stories. And I took them around the park to the different, spots where these things were allegedly happening, down by Whitewater Canyon, out to the cemetery in the parking lot, just so they could get a lay of the land. And then at night, they were on their own to do the investigation. But it was very interesting to see that the setup, what they believed. They were all in on paranormal activity and what their findings were.
So when you said that they had to have the park alone, you just no guests, or was like no
Nobody.
security or anything like that?
The only thing we were able to have is, there had to be somebody in security on site,
Mm.
so they were, in their office, but they couldn't be driving around the perimeter or anything like that. So they had to have the park uh, just alone, just them doing their investigation during those hours. So no interference.
Okay. So you filmed. You said what? 4 days, 5 nights.
Uh,
Was that what they did?
yeah, it was 4 nights.
4 nights.
4 nights that they were there, and they were there for 5 days total. But we let them, go where they wanted to, needed to do their investigation. Spend a lot of time down by Whitewater Canyon because that's where you would hear different things. Allegedly throwing rocks and things at the towers and observation decks and things like that. So it was very thorough. They spent one night up in the Eiffel Tower. They spent one night over in Oktoberfest. Up in the international restaurant, that there would always be reports of pots and pans, the rattling and things like that. So they did a real thorough job looking into it.
Yeah. And so did they film the parts where they discussed it with you up in the international restaurant immediately after their time, or did that come later, or what?
We talked beforehand about just the different things, along with other employees, on what they had experienced and what they had heard, and then after everything was done on that fifth day, that's when they sat down with me to kind of do their reveal, what they found. Um, it was kind of eerie because they were able to debunk a lot of it.
Hmm.
When they found nothing over by an Oktoberfest by the lake, they found nothing. They found a little bit. They thought by the tower they found a little bit of activity, but not enough to confirm anything. Whitewater Canyon, what in terms of the rocks and things that were hitting, the when the employees would sit in those little observation towers, it wasn't like an acorn tree. That's what was falling from the tree, hitting the building. So they debunked that one. But the one where they found the most activity at was up in the international restaurant. They did debunk, that something was happening in terms of, the pots and pans and, those kind of the
Hmm.
noise and the rattling and that would go on in the kitchen. But it turns out that, there's the whatever it was, the furnace or something in the refrigeration, whatever that unit was in the international restaurant. When that would turn on, or off, it would shake things. So that's where that rattling was coming from. But they did pick up a voice, kind of, and it sounded like a young girl. They let me listen to that, and it was very eerie, kind of the hair raising on your arm, kind of eerie. So they did find that, but nothing 100% confirmed, just enough for them to think there might be something here.
So not very conclusive, but I guess if somebody actually found a ghost, we would probably know about it, right?
We would. I'm going to tell you, I mean, through the years, I mean, ever since I started going to Kings Island in the 70s, you would hear the stories. People online would talk about it. As I got to know the employees when I was writing the Racer throughout the 80s, you'd hear the different stories. Uh, the one thing was always consistent through the years, though. So the time I started working there, we're looking 4 decades later, and the descriptions were all the same
Hmm.
about what this little girl in a blue dress looked like. Now, these people don't know each other. They never had any interaction with each other. There weren't any stories in the media or anything to draw from. So to have that same kind of description, is a little bit odd. Kind of adds a little bit of credibility to it. I remember one year, it was 2008 or nine, that I was with a TV station, and it was one of those days where some underprivileged guests, were there as a big group,
Hmm.
and the TV station was, taking photos and videos, and the camera guy, the video guy, was getting ready to take a picture or a shot of them in front of where um, the crypt was.
Hmm.
So we're out there, and he says to me, he says, "Hey Don, is the girl over there in the blue dress? Is she part of this group?" So I look over and I don't see any girl in a blue dress, and I like, "Who? What?" And he says, "Oh, she's gone. Don't worry about it." But
Uh-oh.
but we took a photo of it ourselves, just to have a shot of that same thing while we're with them. And off to the side, where he said, "Is she with the group?" There was like a little outline of looked like a little girl in the picture,
Hmm.
and it was very eerie looking. I deleted that photo. It was just too freaky for me, so I deleted that photo. But That was one of the things, the closest I probably came to it was when the photographer asked if somebody like that was part of the group, or just seeing that outlined in that photo. But I would hear the same stories over and over again from people that didn't know each other.
Yeah, my understanding is that like especially the personnel on the train would commonly see the blue dress girl when they're putting away the trains for the night. Like she hung around that area.
Yeah, I mean, you would hear that, and like I said, the descriptions were the same, the story sounded the same, where the sighting was within the same neighborhood. We're talking like Rivertown back there. But when ghost hunters came there, they found this, the voice, whatever, from a little girl was up in the International Restaurant is where they got that. But that was one of the strangest things that when you're listening to that playback, and after they clean it all up, and it's the little girl asking if her mom's there, you make that out.
Hmm.
And whether that's real, whether they I don't know, but it was something they still couldn't substantiate. They couldn't confirm 100%, other than there seems to be some activity here, which was a lot of their episodes, I think.
Did you do you remember what season this was of Ghost Hunters?
It was in 2012 when the episode aired. I want to say January 11th, 2012 would have been the on-air date, and it still runs in syndication because I still every now and then get an email from someone, or they'll message me through Facebook. Hey, just saw you on TV with Ghost Hunters.
Now, if I recall, you were wearing a purple shirt. I think I own that same shirt, but it looks better on me than it does you.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was, one. I think I started the episode out wearing the purple shirt, and then I want to say at the end I had like a white shirt or something when they set me down at a table.
I'm trying to look through. I've got this app that shows like where shows can be streamed, and it looks like this is kind of discombobulated. If you have Discovery Plus, which I don't think is a thing anymore. I thought that rolled into HBO to make it Max. Um, that's where you can find it. So I guess if you're listening to this in the future, appreciate you listening, by the way. Just Google it up. So Ghost Hunters in 2000, what year? 2011?
2012 was
2012.
when it filmed. It was filmed in 2011 in November, the first week of November. Aired January 11th, 2012 for the first time. Now, I hear from people whenever that episode runs that I haven't heard from since elementary school or maybe middle school or something, and they're all like, "Hey, saw you on an episode of this." I guess they search me through Facebook, find me.
Yeah.
Hey, can you get me tickets to Kings Island? It's like, okay, sure. I haven't heard from you for 40 years. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I would say that that was probably one of your biggest home runs from a PR standpoint. You talk about getting a national story out of nothing. Uh, Not that I'm doubting the existence of ghosts. I don't want to be haunted tonight.
Well, those were the things, as a PR person, you're always looking for those different stories, to get yourself outside your backyard. And, those were the kind of things that, I enjoyed doing was pitching the networks like, Ghost Hunters or the Travel Channel to come out and do something, big events like the Walinda Walks, the
Mm,
Knievels, those were the fun things if you're a PR person to do those kind of events.
yeah, and it's definitely value in getting outside of your backyard. All right. Cool. Well, I'll have to catch that episode. I'm gonna dig into it and see if I can find it. But I do remember watching it when it first came out. So very interesting.
I've never watched it.
Yep. Do you believe Kings Island is haunted, Don?
I want to say no, but the fact that too many different people from too many different decades that have no connection to each other have the same exact story gives a little credibility to it.
So you're saying the girl in the blue dress is actually alive? Because we're getting way into this conspiracy theory now. It,
I would say that that there's too many stories out there for it not to be.
yeah, it'd be very interesting. I don't know if we'll ever find out if there's true existence of ghosts or not, but it'd be very interesting if we're able to unravel what people see. There's a lot of theories behind it, and ghost believers believe in like the EM radiation tells them where the ghost is and stuff. But if we ever find out like that there is a soul on Earth or a ghost on Earth, it'd be very interesting to see the science behind it. But it'll be well beyond my and your understanding, so I guess I shouldn't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Now today I wish I hadn't have deleted that photo that kind of unnerved me a little bit that I took, because that'd be kind of fun for us to include in this episode to show that photo. But like I said, I just too many people that have that same description and the same stories that have no connection to each other just lends a little credibility to it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, yeah. So is it haunted? Tweet at us at tower_topics and let us know if you think Kings Island is legit, truly haunted. I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.